Hey guys, it's Fiona. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce to you some of my favorite books about the mind-body connection, and in particular, how the manifestations in our body can be attributed back to our emotional, mental, or spiritual stuckness, and so how we can release the pains and ailments and illnesses by dealing with our emotional, mental, or spiritual states. So what do I mean by that? Well, I was given a beautiful book yesterday by some dear clients of mine called The Secret Language of Your Body by Ina Segal. And it is wonderful. Now, for some of you, you may have discovered a book, you may have already read a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. This was the first book on my first personal development journey. Mum gave it to me when I was 18 and struggling, and it was all about positive thinking and optimism and, taking responsibility and being grateful. And I hated it. I was so not ready. So it lived on my bookshelf for about 6 years, unread. Or I read a little bit and I was like, that's so pink and that will never work. That positive thinking stuff will never work. Hilarious, right? Until I started coaching and realized it was on the recommended reading list. And then I delved into it and I love it now. But there's a list at the back of this book with health symptoms. And the other book that I use all of the time, you can see it's a well-loved book, is The Body is the Barometer of the Soul by Annette Noontil. Now, these books are my kind of go-to reference guide. Whenever a client comes or whenever I personally have any sort of injury or illness or something playing out, I'll refer to the book. You see, our bodies aren't able to tell us what's going on through words. So if you've got something going on for you and your body is trying to get your attention, or the universe or whatever way you look at it is trying to get your attention, it's got to communicate with you some way. So when we think back to the 4 planes of existence, we've got our spiritual plane, which is pure energy. Then we've got our mental plane, which is what we think. Then we've got our emotional plane, which is what we feel. And then our physical plane, which is what we see, touch, smell, which is what comes outside of us. So if we aren't yet aware enough in our spiritual plane of the energy that's going around, it'll come into our life as a thought. And if we can catch that thought and take care of that thought, we can release it back into the spiritual plane. What happens for most people is it becomes into a thought and then it becomes into an emotion. So we may experience a situation and then it becomes an emotion. Perhaps it's an anger or frustration or fear emotion. Now that's sitting in our body until we release it. So we can release it through grounding or we can release it through a range of different methods. Unfortunately, we're not taught this at school in most cases. So for most people in the world, that sits within our body. And even worse, we are taught to suppress negative emotions. So refer to the class on the emotional spectrum where I'll go into this a lot more deeper. But what happens is as we repress and suppress emotions in our body, they begin to eat away at us. Because what we're doing is we're suppressing a heavy vibration. We're trying to push it down into us rather than letting it out of us. And it will manifest in our body in some way, as a pain, as an illness, or as a symptom or an ailment. So what I love about these books is that they become a really great reference point. Now, for some people, there's still a level of skepticism about the impact of our thoughts into our body. Now, the book I'm going to recommend, again, well loved and filthy, is The Divided Mind by Dr. John Sarno, MD. Now, this is phenomenal. A bit of a challenging read, but well worth it, because he was a back surgeon. And he'd been doing back surgeries, very, very successful back surgeries for years. And then he went through and did a test where after 10 years, he went and interviewed all of his patients and asked them how was their pain, obviously expecting it all to be gone. And what he found, much to his surprise, was that majority of his clients either had recreated the same back problem, so he'd solved it completely. They left happy, healthy, healed, and within 10 years had either recreated the same problem in their lower back or in a referred pain, so in a different location, but they had a similar kind of pain. And so he got really curious about trying to figure out what on earth was causing this, and he started discovering the psychosomatic illnesses. And what they learned, and I'm paraphrasing the book completely, so please dig into it and go do your own research on this one. But essentially, a lot of these illnesses and physical symptoms in the body, whether it's knee pain or back pain, or he even delves into things like carpal tunnel, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. Absolutely fascinating read, having suffered from a couple of those things myself. It was a little confronting when I first read it, but it makes total sense as well. And what they discovered is all of these symptoms, the physical symptoms, were caused by a restriction of blood flow and oxygen to this particular part of the body. But what they couldn't figure out was what was the cause of the restriction. So they could definitely prove that, say, tennis elbow, for example, was caused by a restriction of oxygen and blood flow to the elbow, which is what caused the pain. But they couldn't figure out what caused the restriction. So it just happened while they were playing tennis, so they called it tennis elbow. But when he started digging deeper, they learned that all of these things came from an emotion or a thought that happened before the pain. So absolutely fascinating read. Will give you a lot of scientific and research-based evidence for the skeptics. If you're happy to just take our word for it, then you can delve straight into these kind of books as well. And the way to use them is to look up the symptom. So what I love about pain in the body or ailments in the body is that they show us where to look. They show us, they're a really great way, as if we are not consciously living and consciously observing our thoughts yet or our emotions yet, then our physical symptoms will show us what's going on unconsciously for us. They will be the example or the manifestation of what we have been burying, what we've been ignoring, or what we've been suppressing for a really long time. For me, I used to always get very sore throats. Whenever I had a really important speech to make or presentation to make, I would wake up with no voice, a completely sore throat, and it always happened just before a really important speech where I was about to shine. And I linked it back to, being afraid or having a fear of expressing my voice, expressing my opinion. And it had a lot to do with we're afraid of our light, not our darkness. I was afraid of what people might think. I was a people pleaser to the max. And it was something that was fascinating. So once I dealt with the fear of succeeding and actually sharing, I discovered that my throat problems went away. I never ever had sore throats again, or very, very rarely had sore throats in the same way. Okay, so a great way to do it is just pick a symptom, any symptom. So this one, what I'm loving about this one, it's quite a new book for me. It delves in, so each one, so this is a very short list. This is a lot deeper. It also goes through the chakras, what emotions represent each chakras, the energy centers of your body as well. This is really quite fun. At the back, it even has the impact of your car. So if you have an accident, and this book just cracks me up, because every time something happens and I'm like, is it this? And it's always right. Irritatingly right, I've discovered. So, I'm not even going to read that one. Whoops. Right again. So with this one, it's a lot more detailed. So what it does is it goes through and shows you the emotional, mental aspects of your body, and it shows you the symptom and the remedy. And it looks at it from a physical, emotional, and mental point of view. It's phenomenal. So definitely do yourself a favor and check out at least one of these books. The other great thing about it is it distinguishes between the left side of your body and the right side of your body. So I think usually things on the right side is physical direction and the left side is spiritual direction. So if you've got a pain in your right knee, it is the physical direction you are moving in. Whereas if you've got a pain in your left knee, it's the spiritual direction you're moving in. Okay? So fantastic books, amazing read. I encourage you to check all of them out and use them as a guide. Use them as a way of, say, if you've got something that is really worrying you in your body or something that's shown up just out of the blue, have a read of the book. Have a think about what does it represent and just try it on and say, if this was true, how could I perhaps address this? You know, if it's true that bloated, for example, I've just picked one, feeling bloated is holding on to anger and trying to find someone to blame, or feeling like a victim, helpless, hopeless, worrying too much, holding on to fear, constant self-doubt and self-sabotage, or buying into the belief that you're not good enough. So if you experience bloating a lot, just try it on. Have you ever had those kind of thoughts? And if you have, then it's about addressing them. What I love about this one in particular is that it also gives you affirmations to say or ways to heal it at the same time. So dig in, have a fabulous read, enjoy them. I trust you'll love them as much as I do. I trust you'll find them as confronting as much as I do, but just give it a go. They're not always 100% accurate, of course, but if you delve deep enough, I'm finding that they are 99% sure. So enjoy. Please let me know what you think. Let me know if you've had any experiences with these books, and feel free to share this with anyone who needs to know. Okay. Until we speak next time, take care of you, take care of others, take care of the greater good. Bye for now.